Okay, this is just a quick video I wanted to do about the garbage runs that I've been running in 2019. Garbage run is an idea I had in 2017. I wanted to do Land's End to John O'Groats on my Honda CT 110 that I had previously ridden from Sydney to London. I kept putting it off and finding excuses, so never got around to doing it. Eventually I just put it out there. Anybody who wants to do this run, just meet me down at Land's End, 13th of May 2017. And had about 28 riders on all sorts of bikes, small, medium, large, mainly small, a lot of small Hondas. And they met me down at Land's End, and then we did an 8-day route that I'd plotted out, all the A roads and B roads, all the scenic stuff, camping, bit of a mixture of weather obviously, but it was a good week, and people said you should do it again. So in September I did another one and started charging for it, and then 2018 did a couple of more Land's End John O'Groats run, one that went via Ireland. I did a bunkhouse weekend in Wales and a bunkhouse off-road weekend and other bits and pieces. Also the big one for 2018 was across America, air freighting in 12 UK bikes and riding from New York to LA. So that's where Garbage Run kind of came from. It was an idea just to get me back riding, and it progressed into sort of a full schedule of trips that's grown year on year really. 2019 it started off with a bunkhouse reunion tour, so that was for people who'd been on previous tours, and I just booked out a bunkhouse in mid Wales for 3 nights, and we just did a mixture of trail riding, road riding, just a bit of a get together, social gathering. That's quite nice, you know. We had brilliant weather to say it was April, but it worked out well, and we had no incidents, no accidents off road, which is always the best thing. We just took it steady, and people just enjoyed a couple of days riding. Then moved into the big one, May 2019, which was Garbage Run Australia. This is where I sourced and supplied 8 Australian postal bikes from Brisbane, out of Brisbane, from Joe at 110 Motorcycles, where I'd got the Honda CT, which I'd used to do my world trip on. So he sourced me 8 bikes, we kitted them out with long range tanks and luggage and all the other bits, and then 9 of us flew in and spent 3 weeks riding from Brisbane to Perth, straight through the heart of the outback, so out to Cameron Corner on the sand, and then Strzelecki track, Udinadatta track, up the Stuart Highway to Ayers Rock, and then along the Great Central Road out to Perth. A tough trip, I think. Long distances. It's a big distance to cover. A lot of sand, 3,000 kilometres of sand really, and some of it's manageable, some of it's trickier. We had a few incidents. Martin sadly broke his arm in the first week, and then Chris broke his leg a few days before the end. So a tough trip really. The bike survived intact. Just a few fork seals went as we went across, just corrugations really. That was probably the hardest bit, the corrugations. The route, most of the roads are straight, very isolated. So I did have a satellite phone and a support vehicle. Thomas, an Australian guy, brought his van, and we used that as a support vehicle, which came in very useful for the 2 incidences we had. So kind of a big trip, big learning curve really. It didn't always go to plan, it didn't always go to perfection. I'm just grateful everyone made it out in one piece. And it was a big daunting mission, just the scale of Australia. There's not a lot out there, not a lot of traffic out there. There's parts of it which are a little bit busier than others, but most of it's really empty. Long days, early darkness is what we got. About 4:30 it got dark in an evening, just because that was the best time. May time, it's not too hot in the desert, nor too cold, so pros and cons of doing it at any time of the year. All those bikes were shipped back to the UK afterwards. It was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. I didn't know what else to do. The original idea was to do a reverse trip of that, but because of the 2 incidents, I just didn't want to go through. I didn't want to do that again. It just didn't. I felt we got out alive the first time, and so let's not chance it second. So I came back and straight into another Land's End John O'Groats. I think 30 riders on that one. Not great weather, but a good mixture of riders and people. And it was a well-trodden route, Cornwall, Devon, camping at Bees Farm, and then around Bristol to Dom's Bike Stop outside Leominster, then through the Peak District, campsite there, then up to Hagsbank in Cumbria, Beautiful riding through there, some really good, stunning riding terrain, all on tarmac. Again, ride at your own pace. Designated rest stops or lunch stops or evening, camping spots, and up over the Scottish borders to Dumfries and then up to Ayr. A small ferry, go up to Dunoon ferry, takes you into the Highlands, so Inverary, and then you join the NC 500, and from there you're on your way home. So 8 days works out about nearly 2,500 miles by the time you've ridden to the bottom, all the way up to the top via the back road, and then back down to wherever you live. So it's a good old trip, that. It's a big sense of achievement when you've done it, and I think the reward is that you get to see a lot of the UK. That trip was followed by the Irish trip, Garbage Run Ireland. That was taking 18 riders around Ireland, and that was the first time I'd run the trip around Ireland. That was really good. I was really surprised how good the riding is, especially in the southwest and Dingle Peninsula, and it's just really scenic, good tarmac, quiet, good people, good food, good camp spots. It got everything really. We got really lucky with the weather apart from the first day. Cliffs of Moher, I've always pronounced it wrong. We had high tea at Father Ted's house, which was quite an experience. And then up around the top and into Northern Ireland, down past Giant's Causeway, and then back down to the ferry to Dublin. So that was a nice 8-day circular tour. You had to keep moving. Every day was a full day, but you really got to see some of the best riding of Ireland, and I did enjoy that one. And I think everyone got a good sense of adventure out of that one. After that, it was I might get these in the wrong order because my mind slips a little bit, but I did the Cornish coastal one. Again, really good weather, and that's one I've done a few times now, and that's just taking 4 days to start in Taunton in Somerset or Devon, I forget which one. And then we go into North Devon and do the coastal road, all the back lanes that I use on the Land's End John O'Groats run, but doing it obviously in reverse, down at Land's End, night at Lizard Peninsula, the most southerly point, and then up along the south coast until eventually join back up in Taunton 4 days after, and that's just a nice camping, low-key, nice shorter days, hopefully good weather, which we had this time. Final campsite at B Sands, which was a fantastic little place, nice pub, nice campsite, nice views, beautiful views, as good as anywhere really. And then after that, it was a Matlock to Matlock, and that was starting in Matlock, the idea being to save people all the riding to get down to Land's End, and therefore start in the middle and use the best of the riding roads up all the way around the top of Scotland. So again, North Yorkshire, Cumbria, over the borders again, North Coast 500, Isle of Skye a night there, round to John O'Groats at the very top, and then down the east coast, Cairngorms was fantastic riding through there, through the ski area, and then down through the Northumberland coast, so through Edinburgh, and then east from there, over the moors to the coast, to have a night near Lindisfarne, which is Holy Island, which you can, when the tide's low, you can drive across to. A night there, and then another brilliant ride in through the moors around Newcastle. So inland from Newcastle comes back all the way in and around Barnard Castle and places like that. And then out to Whitby for the last night, back to Matlock again 8 days later. So 8 days gives a good time to not rush your riding, long lunches, nice, try and find a nice place for a bit of lunch, cafes and things. About 180 to 200 miles per day on generally most of those trips. I find that most manageable. Trying to think what was next. After that, I did a Sweet Lamb off-road, beginners off-road weekend. Sweet Lamb's a well-established place out in mid-Wales, huge sprawling facility, now an official KTM training provider. They've got the KTM 790s and things, but for this one I asked people to bring their own bikes. The idea behind that is it really teaches you to learn the basics of riding your bike, because ultimately that's what you're going to go away and ride. So it's taking people through the basics of standing, sitting, braking, cornering, just getting used to feeling how, getting used to the sensation of how a bike performs on gravel or on dirt. So it's just a brilliant facility, and that was 20 people, and I think they kind of got quite a lot out of that. It just takes people who are nervous and shows them actually with a bit of time on the bike, you can really get the basics down and feel far more comfortable riding your bike off-road. That was trail bikes, mid-size adventure bikes, large-size adventure bikes, everything in between. I did another Land's End to John O'Groats, this time with a smaller group, which was nice having a slightly a smaller group. And then came the last trip, which was Bulgaria or Bust, and this was an idea I had to make the most of your time on the road by shipping bikes out, or land freighting bikes out with a company called Bulgaria Bike Shipping. That was taking 12 riders out to Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria, and then spending 2 weeks to ride back leisurely. We were initially heading east to Buzludza, the UFO monument, the old communist monument, and then west to the Belgoradic fortress, the old rock fortress, beautiful, into Serbia, across Serbia, Lake Uva, then into Montenegro, which probably gave us the best ride in the entire trip. It's a lot of mountains, beautiful lakes, reservoirs, and then down into the old town of Kota on the coast, beautiful coastline in Montenegro, quiet roads, beautiful views, good riding, and it was good. Probably Montenegro was everyone's favourite. Croatia into there for a while to do the coast, then into Bosnia to go and see Mostar, where the old bridge was, or the reconstructed bridge that was destroyed in the war in the 90s. So that was interesting and really worthwhile seeing it. The emptiness of Bosnia, then down to the coast again of Croatia to ride that all the way up to Slovenia. Brilliantly empty stretches of coastline, good riding again, nice little beaches, nice little towns, nice food. Slovenia was a surprise, kind of a mini Switzerland, but cheaper than Switzerland. So we enjoyed that. Lake Bled and Versick Pass, which was different, cobblestones on the corners, and a more kind of alpine but different. I can't really describe it. Just a nice pass, really. Lots of atmosphere. And then west into the Dolomites in Italy. Good riding, a little bit busy, not too bad. And then up towards Stelvio and riding Solden and up to Davos and all those alpine passes in Austria, and then into Switzerland and Susten, Furka, Grimsel passes, all really good passes, and before finally pushing on home to the UK and catching a ferry home. So that was Bulgaria or Bus. So yeah, good selection of trips. Some big, the Australian one obviously big, long, lengthy, kind of expensive, Bulgaria in the middle, and the small Cornish coastal one. So a bit of everything. For next year I'm looking at doing, I've got an America one booked in, I've got that fully booked. I've got 13 I'm taking across the States again in August. I think people get a lot out of that trip. It's taking your own bike, gives a sense of excitement and adventure, and then bringing that bike back. Also looking at doing one around Iceland, a 10-day around Iceland. Bit of on-road, bit of off-road, nothing too extreme, possibly throwing in or incorporating a couple of days training at Sweetland before that, so to get everyone well versed. And then also trying to work together with Seven Seas Importers, a Japanese-based company, to do a garbage run Japan, and to take people around one of the islands of Japan, just not necessarily all about the riding, but also all about the culture and Japan, and exploring Japan. And that'd be on the Honda CT 110s probably, or the newer Cubs, the 125. So that's those 3 trips. And then also the idea with the bikes I brought back from Garbage Run Australia, they're to be registered as UK bikes and then used as a fleet of rental bikes, not rental as in take it off on your own, more as a group of a guided group. So we do Land's End, not necessarily Land's End to John O'Groats, probably the Cornish run and some shorter, longer weekend things. Again, just to get people riding. Might do the Irish one, depends on time and things like that. I don't want to, it's nice to break up the long trips with a lot of small ones, because I find that the shorter ones are more popular with kind of younger riders, and I kind of want to sort of foster a few more younger riders to get them through into realising that travelling on a motorbike is possible. And that's the idea, really. That's Garbage Run. See what happens in 2020. So yeah, over and out. Cheers.